Spectacular, spectacular, Spider-Man. Spectacular, spectacular, Spider-Man. Spectacular, spectacular, Spider-Man. Spectacular.
Yeah, this is a great movie. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Animation Station. No one's thought I should do anything and everything animation. And some live action every now and then, including a certain webhead. Welcome back to Spider-Thon, and welcome to my review of Mark Webb's The Amazing Spider-Man, the second version of live-action Spider-Man, and the first one to not be connected in any way to the Tobey Maguire films. After Spider-Man 3 disappointed a lot of people, even though it did do pretty well at the box office, Sony decided to try and take things in a new direction. So they axed Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4. Like, literally, they told him on set of that movie, which is a shame, but it's whatever. And they decided to go in a whole new direction, casting a brand new Spider-Man, getting a new cast, getting a new crew, and most of all, for the most part, a new story. For the most part, it's still an origin, but it's very different from the other Spider-Man. The biggest difference is that instead of being bright, colorful, and cheesy, this one is more dark, serious, and, well, yeah, more dark and serious. It's not as cheesy and corny as the other movies. And the biggest thing that probably a lot of people were mad about when this first came out is the casting of Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. People have their opinions, and whenever a new generation of Spider-Man comes around, apparently all the other ones just get non-stop crapped on. Like, when the Tobey Maguire films came out, everyone was a fan. Well, not everyone, but you know what I mean, comic book fans. And then this one came out, people said this was the true Spider-Man and the other one was garbage. And then when we got the Tom Holland trilogy, they said this was peak Spider-Man and these are garbage. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, tomorrow's review is the only bad one. Heck, I don't even think any of these movies at this point fall below a 5, or heck, even a 7. Like, I really like most of these movies, aside from the one that we have to talk about next time. That's the only one that I absolutely do not like and will not defend. But for now, let's talk about this movie. This one was a first-time watch for me after hearing so many mixed things about it. Some people say it's great, some people say it's terrible, some people say it's refreshing, and other people say it's by the numbers and boring. I fall on the fence. Well, I fall on the side of the fence of the people that say this movie's amazing. Yeah, I love this one. I think this is a really great retelling and reimagining of Spider-Man that tries to be a bit more accurate to the comics by having actual web shooters instead of organic web, and a more dark, serious tone. And I don't think a dark, serious tone was a bad idea at the time. I mean, you have to remember, this came out, 4 years after The Dark Knight blew the doors down on pretty much everything? Like, Dark Knight and Iron Man came out 4 years before this, in 2008, and it pretty much kicked the door down for comic book movies to start, trying to be more serious, instead of, the campy stuff from the old days. And you'd think that'd be something that pisses me off, but when it's executed well, I'm going to give it a bit of a pass. And this one I'm absolutely going to give a pass because it's a completely new telling, it's a completely new vision that takes little to nothing from the Tobey Maguire films. It's its own unique thing, and that's the thing that I love about it the most. It's not trying to be a rehash, it's not trying to be a copy of anything. It's just trying to be a standalone Spider-Man movie with a much darker tone. And I feel like this is that movie that absolutely nails it. Let's start with Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I do not care what some of the naysayers say. As much as I love Tobey, Andrew is also a great Spider-Man for a different reason. Tobey was great at, being goofy, cheesy, kid-friendly, and off the wall. And then this Spider-Man, he's more down-tone, he's more serious, and he's somewhat more realistic. Like, even as Peter Parker, I kind of bought him more. Like, yes, he was 29 when he did this movie, I know, but I still bought him as a teenager. He had that really young look to him, and it kind of really fit the vibe more. And sure, I can see some of the arguments like, okay, why would anyone bully this guy? He's a good-looking guy with a lot of hair gel and knows how to skateboard. Because sometimes even the people you don't think will get picked on anyway. And I kind of like how this movie puts a spotlight on that. I also like how Andrew's Spider-Man is a bit more awkward. Like, he doesn't quite know what to say half the time, as he's trying to figure out, well, the mystery of his father, and how it connects to Oscorp, and, well, later on, trying to adapt to these new powers he gets after that spider bites him. I also really think that they did a better relationship here. Yes, better than Peter and MJ. That was not a good relationship, and the third movie emphasized that. Here, with Gwen and Peter, it's really good. Like, it's really good, it's realistic, and actually somewhat relatable. And not to mention, it's just sweet. It's just a sweet relationship. And when Peter reveals to Gwen that he is Spider-Man, to quote Nostalgia Critic, it's a pretty hot reveal. Like, she's about to turn away, he doesn't know how to say it, so he just thinks to himself, grabs her with his web, and spins her back over to him. Like, that's a unique way to do it. I also like this movie's darker color palette, I like its darker tone, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but this is my opinion. I think that this should have been Andrew's definitive suit. I don't hate the one from Amazing Spider-Man that transitions into No Way Home. Like, I don't hate the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. I can understand why they went back to that classic look. I can understand that. But the thing I like about this suit is that it's not the classic look. It's something different. The super dark red, the dark blue, that's also reflective. The eyes having a yellow lens instead of a white lens because they're made out of shade lenses. And I do like that they made the web shooters separate from the actual character. I do think it worked great in the Sam Raimi movies, but here, with this darker tone, I feel like it works a lot better. Having him have to make his own web shooters, and not to mention, they don't hide the fact of that either. Like, it's not ambiguous, it's not like, oh, did he make them, or is there something else going on here? No, it's straight up shown to you how he makes them. And later on, when he's fighting Lizard, you see them get crushed. Like, they really put the emphasis on the fact that this Spider-Man is new, this Spider-Man is different, and this Spider-Man isn't trying to copy anything, while also being respectful to its subject material. Source material. Why do I keep saying subject material? Damn it. But yeah, I really love this suit. I think it is fantastic. I think it is better than the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit, and I wish that Andrew got to keep this suit, because I feel like it suits him really well. Not to mention, I also feel like Andrew plays a better Peter Parker than Tobey Maguire. Tobey does a great job in the role for what he has to do, but with this one, this isn't just a guy coming in to play Spider-Man, because I don't think Tobey Maguire had that same fanhoodship connection as Sam Raimi did. Here, Andrew Garfield, he is a huge fan of the material. Heck, before he was in this movie, he played Spider-Man on the Broadway show. Like, he loves this character. He wants to be this character. And he really understands how both Peter and Spider-Man work. And I feel like it works more to his benefit. Yes, I can understand that's something that's going to piss off a lot of people for me to say, but it's true. I think Andrew is a better Peter Parker, but Tobey is a better Spider-Man. And that's also, like, again, it depends on what generation of Spider-Man you grow up in. I also feel like it was cool that they tried to give the dad in this movie a bit more of an emphasis in how he connects with hunting down Spider-Man, because, well, unfortunately, we don't get J. Jonah Jameson in this movie, which is, yeah, that's a huge bummer. I do like his arc. How he thinks that Spider-Man's a criminal, just like the rest of them, and needs to be put behind bars. But then later on, when he finds out that it is Peter, and realizes that he was right about the lizard after he tried to tell him in his office, like, you see him transition, you see him make that arc. Yes, I am a bit miffed that he's the one that made him keep Gwen out of it at the end, but that's resolved in the next movie pretty quick, so I'm not really going to hold this movie against that. Not to mention, the movie itself is just really well done. Like, the directing is great, the cinematography is great, the action is great, the effects are way better than they were in Spider-Man 1. Like, come on, guys, let's all be honest. Those effects, aside from the web sling scenes, are dated and bad, okay? Can we all at least agree on that? I'm a Tobey fanboy, but I have my standards still. And here, with this, I feel like these effects are kind of on the same level as Spider-Man 2. Like, it's hard to explain. It's all really well done. Most of the time, I couldn't even tell it was CGI. Except for one thing I'm going to get to in a minute, and that's this movie's big problem. The other big thing I'm going to say that this movie really nailed is the acting. Usually with a darker retelling like this, if you don't get the right actors, you can have the most amazing script in the world, but if your delivery isn't on point, then it's not going to be very effective. In this movie, it's effective and it's well done. From Peter himself to Gwen to Captain Stacy to Uncle Ben, Aunt May, even Flash. Like, I know some people say Flash is confusing in this movie, but in a way, he also goes through his own arc in the background. Like, we don't see a lot of him. Like, we see one scene where he's bullying a kid and gives Peter a good punch in the mouth. Then we see another scene where Peter humiliates him after he figures out his spider powers. And then we have the scene, it's brief, where Uncle Ben just died, Flash feels bad, and he tries to go over to apologize for, being an a-hole. And Peter almost throws him through a locker. Like, this is, yeah, you can say it's teen angsty. I don't care. I feel like it works for the story they're trying to tell. And then in the end, when it seems like Flash has completely forgiven Peter, he's stopped being a bully, and he's even wearing the Spider-Man shirt. He doesn't know Peter's Spider-Man, obviously, but it still has a nice commodity to it. Especially how Flash Thompson was completely underdeveloped and underutilized in the past movies. I know, it's a super minor thing, but it's all in the details, guys. But Martin Sheen as Uncle Ben, he's not as iconic or as amazing as the guy that plays Uncle Ben in the first Raimi movie, but he still puts in 110% when he doesn't need to. Like, he gives Peter a good talking to. He gives him that ideology of responsibility, and I'm not sure if saying it's connected to his father is actually a good thing, but whatever. And when he dies, like you inevitably know he's going to, because this is Spider-Man after all, it's part of his origin story, it's tragic. It's sad. Especially this scene they have right before that, where they have a falling out, and unlike in the Raimi movie, where it's like Peter just bites his head off out of nowhere, in this movie, it's developed through different scenes. Like, he's mad about Peter showing off. He's mad about Peter trying to get even, and then he's even more mad where he just shirks off his responsibility. Like, it's really effective and so good. Not to mention, Uncle Ben tries to put up a fight against the robber that ends up shooting him. Like, props for that. And also props for Gwen Stacy not being a damsel in distress. Like, as much as I love MJ in those other movies for how she works with Peter, even though it's not a healthy relationship, here with Gwen Stacy, it's a bit more somewhat realistic. And not to mention, this Gwen Stacy's way better than the awful one that was in Spider-Man 3. Like, just, you could have cut her out and missed nothing. Well, aside from the kissing scene, but you probably could have cut that out, but whatever. This Gwen Stacy, played by Emma Stone, is excellent. Like, she's really good. Not only is she faithful to her comic version, but she is not a damsel. She does not allow herself to be captured. Like, when she sees Spider-Man in trouble, she grabs a trophy out of the trophy case and smacks Lizard over the head with it. Or another later scene where she's trying to get the antidote, she has to hide in this little closet area. And when Lizard finds her, instead of just letting herself be captured or eaten, she grabs a hairspray and a lighter and turns it into a freaking flamethrower right in front of his face. Like, clearly everything was done better in those other movies. Like, come on, guys. Even if you are a huge fan of the Raimi movies just like me, you cannot deny that that was a really nice change of pace. Just saying. So I have so many things to praise this movie for. Oh, another thing I want to praise this movie for real quick is the scene where it's on the bridge and he has to save this kid. Now he could just, get in there, pull him out, and up you go. But it's more developed than that because the kid's scared and Spider-Man sees the kid's scared, so he literally takes off his mask, lets the kid wear it, and helps him out of the burning car before it falls into the ocean. Like, that's an effective scene that really gets to the point of Spider-Man. Not to mention, Spider-Man starts out as a bit of a vengeful a-hole, but after he saves the kid, he starts to realize maybe it's not about revenge. Maybe it's just about being a good person and saving innocent lives. Like, I really like that ideology and the way that slowly turns him into the hero he becomes, but still having that darker edge. So, I've praised this movie a ton, but I hate to say it, there's one big problem. And I hate that I have to say that this is the problem, but it's the problem. Lizard is a bad villain. Like the guy that plays Dr. Connors, he does a good job, and I mean, bit of relatability with his motives and everything. That part's fine. It's the Lizard himself. He's kind of just stereotypical generic monster guy. Like, he doesn't have a personality. His design is awful. Like no snout, really. And that CGI, that's the one part I will gladly rip apart. The CGI on Lizard is horrendous. And, it just doesn't work. That's the one part of this movie I rolled my eyes at, like, oh, we got this again. Okay, I'll make up for it by praising one other thing about this movie, aside from the fight scenes. The fight scenes are awesome in this movie. The other thing I will gladly praise in this movie that everyone can agree on, even if you hate this movie, is the Stan Lee cameo, which is arguably one of his best and one of his funniest, where he's just a librarian, he's got headphones on, he's listening to classical music while Spidey and Lizard just fight in the background. Like, hilarious epic cameo, and it made me laugh so hard seeing it. Like, I've seen it before because, cameo compilations online are not very well versed in spoilers, but even before I saw this movie, I loved that scene and it made me laugh. Watching it in the context of the actual scene itself, now having seen the whole movie, it's hilarious. Like, it's such a little scene, but it's so funny. And it's one of the things that you definitely remember from the movie. Just seeing Stanley as a librarian trying to, you know, get his desk all orderly before he walks out the door. Like, it's so funny. Like, it didn't need to be there, but it's funny. And that's another thing I like about this movie. The dialogue is funny, while also being realistic. Like, the scene where Peter embarrasses Flash is amazing. Like, the way he keeps moving that basketball all around him, and then having the grand finish with him destroying the backboard and the basketball hoop in the gym. Like, that was hilarious. And not only that, it serves as a great scene to forward his character development especially after Uncle Ben balls him out for being a show-off. So, yeah, I have many things to praise about this movie. If the villain wasn't terrible, I would absolutely give this a 10 and put it up there with the Raimi movie. It's that good in its own unique, separate way. And those saying that Garfield is a bad Spider-Man, no. He just got dealt a bad hand sometimes, especially in the next movie. Like, he has always been a great Spider-Man. He always will be a great Spider-Man. He's just different. That's the thing. He's just different. And being different does not automatically make it bad, especially when it's done as well as it is in here. Like, I will never understand the people that call this movie awful, or the people that call this movie garbage, just because it's different. Heck, being different is what people should be praising it for. Sorry, I'm getting on a little bit of a tangent, I'm sorry. But this movie is excellent. Like, I love this film. As a Spider-Man fan, I enjoy it, and even as a Maguire fanboy, I still really enjoy it. I think Andrew Garfield's a great Spider-Man. I feel like pretty much everything in this movie was done right. If that villain was just better and they could have come up with a better design, it could have been something great. Okay, one other thing I will nitpick. There's one scene where Peter's trying to catch photographic evidence of Lizard and his existence. But his stupid dumb butt decided to leave his name on the camera, pretty much revealing to Lizard that he's Spider-Man. That is beyond dumb. Like, that's the one time in this movie I'm like, okay, Peter, you should have known that was a dumb idea. But whatever, little minor things. Like, the villain's the only major problem, the rest are just little minor things. Overall, this movie is fantastic. This movie is, dare I say, amazing. And you people that crap on it, just stop and give it a chance. Stop trying to compare it to what came before it, and try to just judge it on its own merits. If you do that, I promise you, you will have a much better time with it. And that's what I had. I had a fantastic time with this movie. And unfortunately, while I know next time it completely head dives off a cliff, I still am going to hold this movie in very high regard. Final verdict for The Amazing Spider-Man is a 9 out of 10. It is a fantastic new reimagining of Spider-Man with a nice darker edge to it that I can really appreciate. Unfortunately, like I said, next time, tomorrow, and specifically, we gotta dive headfirst off a cliff, because prepare for what might be, well, not might be, what is, the worst movie Spidey's ever been in. Yeah, buckle up. Tomorrow's not gonna be a fun review. So, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the disappointing, cluttered, broken mess that is Amazing Spider-Man 2. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'm not ready. Pray for me.